Guys, I just found a photo with Michael Jackson's autograph on it. This plane has everything. It's crazy. And these signs tell where the plane has been on his journey.
Michael Jackson, the iconic king of pop, captivated the world with his legendary dance moves, unforgettable music, and unmatched talent. Despite facing personal struggles and controversies, he remained one of the most influential entertainers in history. But after his tragic death at the age of 50, questions surrounding his final moments led the FBI to investigate, including a closer look at his private jet. What they uncovered would leave many people shocked. Join us in this video as we look into the discovery by the FBI. The secrets found inside Michael Jackson's old plane. For years, the Boeing 727 that carried Michael Jackson throughout the Dangerous World Tour remained locked away in storage, almost completely forgotten by the outside world. Its existence lived on only through aviation records, maintenance logs, and old paperwork. The aircraft had been leased for the tour rather than permanently owned, so once the final concert ended, it quietly returned to civilian service, leaving behind little sign that one of the world's biggest stars had once called it home. Then, years later, everything changed. A dedicated group of aviation preservation experts managed to acquire the aircraft with one clear purpose in mind. They wanted to inspect the plane, carefully document any original interior features that had survived, and discover whether anything connected to Michael Jackson's legendary tour had somehow remained hidden inside after all those years. Finally, the day arrived. The doors to Michael Jackson's former private jet were opened once again, and what the team discovered immediately caught everyone's attention. The moment the main cabin door swung open, it was obvious that this was far more than just another retired Boeing 727 waiting to be restored. Although many of the custom features had disappeared over the years, having been replaced with standard commercial equipment, the footage showed that several remarkable details still remained. Scattered throughout the aircraft were quiet reminders of its extraordinary past. Inside one of the forward storage compartments, the team uncovered a laminated flight schedule listing several stops, including Tokyo, Seoul, and Taipei. Each flight was marked with initials and dates that perfectly matched Michael Jackson's 1993 Dangerous World Tour itinerary. Farther inside the aircraft, an overhead compartment that had apparently remained unopened for years revealed another unexpected discovery. Resting inside was a small flight bag. When it was carefully opened, the crew found a pair of sunglasses, a handwritten note in black marker listing several tour stops, and a well-used set of noise-canceling headphones with worn and faded ear pads that showed clear signs of years of use. The technicians who examined the items believed the bag most likely belonged to someone on Michael Jackson's touring team rather than Michael himself. Even so, the personal nature of everything inside immediately sparked curiosity. The handwriting on the note was never officially authenticated, but several people who examined it claimed the lettering closely resembled the bold, block-style writing Michael was known to use while preparing rehearsal notes and tour plans. Another fascinating discovery was made farther back in the aircraft inside the rear galley. Hidden behind a damaged panel near the cabin floor was a rolled-up folder containing several printed documents that had somehow remained untouched for decades. Inside were carbon copies of tour paperwork, a weather report prepared for the Buenos Aires flight, and a meal service checklist with the name Jackson handwritten across the top. There was nothing secret, shocking, or mysterious hidden inside those documents. Yet the discovery was remarkable for a completely different reason. These ordinary papers provided an authentic physical connection to the daily operations of one of the most ambitious world tours ever organized. Rather than being preserved on purpose, they had simply survived by accident, quietly waiting to be found years later. Perhaps the most unexpected discovery came from a maintenance hatch near the rear section of the aircraft. While removing part of the floor paneling during restoration work, a technician noticed a small, faded envelope wedged beneath the insulation. Inside were several photographs, most likely printed from 35mm film. They captured simple moments, including views from the cockpit, smiling crew members standing proudly beside the aircraft, and one blurry photograph showing Michael with his head lowered as he quietly walked toward the aircraft stairs late at night. These were not carefully arranged publicity photographs or images intended for magazines. Instead, they appeared to be ordinary snapshots, taken in the moment, most likely by a flight attendant or perhaps a member of the ground crew. Their exact origin remains a mystery, and despite years passing since they were discovered, no one has ever come forward to claim ownership of them. In the end, what surprised people the most was not the discoveries themselves, but how completely ordinary they were. There was no hidden vault waiting to be opened, no secret message tucked away inside the aircraft, and no mysterious object left behind. Instead, the plane had simply done exactly what it had been built to do: carry one of the most famous entertainers in history safely across the world during one of the largest, most demanding concert tours ever performed. Following the FBI's discoveries aboard Michael Jackson's private jet after his death, what did the public think? And how did these findings shape his legacy? Keep watching to find out. The public's biggest surprise about Michael Jackson's jet. For years, fans have wondered what Michael Jackson's life truly looked like behind the scenes while traveling from one country to another during the Dangerous World Tour. Many imagined that behind the closed doors of his private aircraft was a world filled with extreme luxury, endless comfort, and the kind of extravagance expected from one of the biggest entertainers on the planet. But when those doors were finally opened, the reality was far different. Instead of revealing a hidden world of glamour, the aircraft revealed something much more personal: ordinary belongings, forgotten notes, practical items, and small reminders of the exhausting schedule that came with carrying out one of the largest tours in music history. What people found inside the jet showed a side of Michael Jackson that was rarely seen by the public. It was a reminder that even someone as famous as him still needed a quiet place to sit, sleep, recover, and prepare before stepping back into the spotlight. Behind the performances, the crowds, and the worldwide attention was simply a person trying to manage the pressure of an extraordinary life. In the end, the Boeing 727 was not hiding shocking secrets, mysterious discoveries, or a forgotten treasure waiting to be uncovered. Instead, it carried memories, pieces of history, and a clearer understanding of how Michael approached his career during one of the most intense periods of his life. When people think about how Michael traveled during the Dangerous World Tour, it is easy to imagine extravagant cabins, gold-covered interiors, private chefs preparing luxury meals, and a flying palace designed for a superstar. But the real importance of the Boeing 727 was never about wealth, appearance, or showing the world how much he could afford. The true story behind the aircraft reveals something much deeper about Michael Jackson's mindset. According to people who worked around the tour, the plane represented something far more valuable than luxury. It represented control, stability, and a safe space away from a world that never stopped watching him. At the height of his fame, Michael Jackson was one of the most recognized people on Earth. Every city he visited created enormous excitement. Thousands of fans gathered outside hotels, airports, and venues, hoping for even a few seconds of seeing him step out of a vehicle, wave from a distance, or simply appear in public. His every movement attracted attention, and even ordinary moments became major events. For someone living under that level of constant observation, the Boeing 727 became much more than just a method of transportation. It became one of the few places where Michael could temporarily disappear from the world around him. But what truly made this jet special? Did Michael Jackson have a deeper connection with the aircraft? And why did it hold such a unique place in his life? Stay tuned to find out. The aircraft behind Michael Jackson's world tour. When Michael Jackson stepped aboard the Boeing 727 used during his Dangerous World Tour, he was not simply boarding an airplane. For more than a year, the aircraft became his private retreat in the middle of one of the most demanding concert tours ever organized. It provided him with privacy, security, flexibility, and a rare sense of control, while his life remained under constant public attention. Rather than owning the aircraft, Jackson reportedly chartered the Boeing 727 through a private aviation company, allowing it to serve as his personal travel base as he moved across continents. The aircraft became an important part of keeping the massive production running smoothly, helping him and his team travel efficiently between cities around the world. The Boeing 727 was an impressive three-engine jet designed for short and medium-distance travel. It could reach speeds of nearly 570 miles per hour and travel around 2,500 miles before refueling. With its spacious design and ability to operate from many airports, it became a popular choice among business leaders, government officials, and entertainers who needed both comfort and flexibility. For Jackson, the aircraft was a practical choice. It provided enough space for him, his staff, security team, medical personnel, and the equipment needed for an international tour, while still allowing quick movements between destinations. During the Dangerous World Tour, which traveled through Europe, Asia, South America, and other regions, reliable transportation was essential. Despite his superstar status, the aircraft was not designed as an extravagant flying palace. The interior reportedly followed a VIP layout with comfortable seating, a private area for relaxation, and possibly a small sleeping space. People who worked around the aircraft described it as functional, organized, and focused on comfort rather than luxury. Jackson was not known for hosting parties or creating a glamorous atmosphere. Instead, he usually traveled with trusted assistants, security personnel, and sometimes his personal chef. His meals were simple and carefully prepared because his demanding schedule left little time for anything unnecessary. With the special connection Michael Jackson had with this aircraft, let's uncover the events surrounding his final days and why this iconic jet became part of a story he would never complete. The story behind Michael Jackson's final days. In the months before his death, Michael Jackson was preparing intensely for his highly anticipated This Is It concert series in London. The shows were meant to mark his return to the stage after years away and were expected to become one of the biggest entertainment events in history. With millions of fans excited for his comeback, the concerts were projected to earn hundreds of millions of dollars. However, behind the excitement, Jackson was facing a serious personal struggle. He was suffering from severe sleep problems and reportedly experienced chronic insomnia, sometimes going days without proper rest. As rehearsals continued, sleep became one of his biggest concerns. To manage Jackson's health during this demanding period, cardiologist Dr. Conrad Murray was hired as his personal physician. He was reportedly paid around $150,000 per month and was responsible for overseeing Jackson's medical needs while he prepared for the concerts. Murray later admitted that he had been giving Jackson propofol, a powerful anesthetic normally used in hospitals during medical procedures to help him sleep. The medication requires careful monitoring because it can affect breathing, heart rate, and oxygen levels. Medical experts argued that using propofol at home without proper equipment or emergency support created serious risks. On June 25, 2009, Jackson struggled to sleep again. According to Murray, he tried other medications first, but they did not work. As morning approached, he eventually gave Jackson propofol through an IV. Shortly afterward, Jackson stopped breathing. Murray told investigators that he briefly left the room and later found Jackson unconscious and unresponsive. He attempted CPR, but did not immediately call emergency services. The emergency call was made about 82 minutes later by a member of Jackson's staff. When paramedics arrived, they found Jackson in cardiac arrest and rushed him to Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center. Despite efforts to revive him, Michael Jackson was pronounced dead at age 50. The Los Angeles County coroner determined that his death was caused by acute propofol intoxication, with other sedatives also found in his system. His death was officially classified as a homicide. After his passing, investigators focused on Dr. Conrad Murray's actions. Authorities searched his offices and gathered evidence about Jackson's treatment. Prosecutors argued that Murray had administered propofol in an unsafe environment without proper monitoring equipment, emergency supplies, or trained medical assistants nearby. They also claimed Murray failed to respond quickly enough when Jackson's condition became critical and delayed contacting emergency responders. Prosecutors questioned his decision to give flumazenil, a medication used to reverse the effects of certain sedatives, arguing it may have complicated the situation. In February 2010, Dr. Conrad Murray was charged with involuntary manslaughter in connection with Michael Jackson's death. Murray denied the accusations and pleaded not guilty, beginning a highly publicized legal battle that would capture worldwide attention. But as the world mourned Michael Jackson's passing, one question remained. Could there have been more to his death? And was someone responsible for what happened? Stay tuned to find out. The trial that followed, Michael Jackson's death. When Dr. Conrad Murray's trial began in September 2011, the world once again turned its attention to the final moments of Michael Jackson's life. The highly publicized case quickly became one of the most closely watched legal battles in the entertainment world, as prosecutors and defense attorneys presented completely different versions of what happened inside Jackson's home on the day he died. Prosecutors framed the case as one of gross negligence. They argued that Murray had abandoned the most basic standards of medical care by administering propofol in an unsafe environment and failing to properly monitor his patient. According to their argument, the issue was not simply the medication itself, but the way it was used, the conditions surrounding its administration, and the decisions Murray made during the critical moments when Jackson's life was in danger. They presented a detailed timeline showing that Murray had administered a powerful anesthetic in a non-medical setting, failed to provide the level of monitoring required for such a dangerous drug, and did not respond appropriately when Jackson went into cardiac arrest. Expert witnesses called by the prosecution described the setup inside Jackson's bedroom as dangerously inadequate. They explained that propofol was a medication that required extreme caution and that even small mistakes in dosage, monitoring, or response time could lead to deadly consequences if immediate medical intervention was not available. The prosecution also focused heavily on Murray's actions after Jackson stopped breathing. They argued that instead of immediately contacting emergency services, Murray spent valuable time making phone calls and sending emails during a moment when every second was critical. According to prosecutors, those decisions showed a failure to act with the urgency expected from a medical professional facing a life-threatening emergency. Murray's defense team presented a completely different version of events. They attempted to shift responsibility away from the doctor by arguing that Jackson had taken an additional fatal amount of propofol himself while Murray was briefly out of the room. Their argument suggested that Jackson's own actions, rather than Murray's treatment, were responsible for the outcome. The defense also claimed that Jackson had developed a strong dependence on sleep medications because of his long struggle with insomnia. They argued that Jackson had been desperate for rest and had repeatedly pressured Murray to provide stronger medications because previous treatments were no longer working effectively. However, prosecutors rejected this explanation. They argued that regardless of Jackson's personal struggles, requests, or dependence on medication, Murray was still the doctor responsible for his care. In their view, a physician's duty was to make safe medical decisions, recognize dangerous situations, and protect the patient from danger. They maintained that Murray had a responsibility to refuse unsafe treatment, provide proper monitoring, and respond immediately when Jackson's condition became critical. According to prosecutors, the tragedy was not caused simply by Jackson's desire to sleep, but by a series of medical decisions that placed him in danger. As the trial continued, both sides focused on the events leading up to Jackson's final moments. The prosecution attempted to show that Murray's actions represented a serious failure of medical responsibility, while the defense worked to create doubt about whether the doctor could truly be held responsible for Jackson's death. The case became a worldwide discussion about medical ethics, the dangers of powerful medications, and the difficult relationship between celebrity, pressure, and personal health. After weeks of testimony and emotional arguments, the jury was left to decide whether Dr. Conrad Murray's actions amounted to criminal negligence or whether the circumstances surrounding Michael Jackson's death were more complicated than prosecutors claimed. Beyond his connection to the jet and the events surrounding his death, let's take a deeper look into Michael Jackson's extraordinary life, his rise to global fame, and why this aircraft became such an important part of his journey. Michael Jackson's story from childhood to fame. Michael Joseph Jackson was born on August 29, 1958, in Gary, Indiana. He was the 8th of 10 children born to Joseph Jackson, a crane operator, and Catherine Jackson, a homemaker and devoted Jehovah's Witness. Both parents had musical dreams of their own. Catherine played the piano and clarinet and hoped to become a singer, while Joseph was a guitarist who performed in local R&B bands. They encouraged their children's talents, and Michael began his musical journey at just 5 years old under his father's guidance. Growing up in a large musical family, Jackson was surrounded by talent. Many of his siblings, including Janet, Jermaine, Tito, Jackie, Marlon, and others, later found success in music. His father pushed the children to work hard, making them rehearse for hours every day. However, Joseph's strict methods were often described as harsh and maltreatment, as he demanded perfection from his children. In the early 1960s, Joseph formed a group with his sons that would become the legendary Jackson 5. The group originally included Jackie, Tito, and Jermaine before Michael joined at age 5 and quickly became the lead singer. Despite his young age, Michael amazed audiences with his powerful voice, emotional performances, and natural stage presence. The Jackson 5 started by performing at local events before gaining wider attention. They opened for major R&B artists like James Brown and Gladys Knight, eventually catching the eye of Motown founder Berry Gordy. In 1969, Gordy signed the group, helping launch them into worldwide fame. Their first album, Diana Ross Presents the Jackson 5, produced the hit single I Want You Back, which reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. More successful songs followed, including A BC, The Love You Save, and I'll Be There. As their popularity grew, the Jackson 5 became one of the biggest groups of the era and even received their own animated TV show. Michael also became known for his unique dance moves, including the famous robot dance he performed in 1973. Despite their success, disagreements developed between the Jackson family and Motown over creative control. In 1976, the group left Motown and signed with Epic Records, becoming known as the Jacksons. Their album Destiny, 1978, showed their growth as songwriters and performers. While still performing with his brothers, Michael began building a solo career. His early albums, including Got to Be There, 1971, and Ben, 1972, established him as a rising star. His role as the Scarecrow in the 1977 film The Wiz also influenced his artistic growth and introduced him to new musical styles, including early hip-hop. Michael's major breakthrough came with Off the Wall in 1979, produced by Quincy Jones. The album blended pop and funk and featured hits like Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Rock With You. It transformed Jackson from a child star into a mature solo artist and became one of the most celebrated pop albums of its time. His success reached even greater heights with Thriller in 1982, which became the best-selling album in history. Jackson continued breaking records, winning awards, and changing the music industry with his innovative videos, unforgettable performances, and iconic dance moves. In 1985, Jackson and Lionel Richie co-wrote We Are the World, a charity single that brought together some of the world's biggest musicians and raised millions for humanitarian causes in Africa. 2 years later, he released Bad, 1987, which produced 5 #1 singles, including Bad, Man in the Mirror, and Dirty Diana. In 1988, Jackson purchased land in California and created Neverland Ranch, a private estate featuring a zoo, amusement rides, a train, and a movie theater. Named after the fictional world from Peter Pan, it became one of the most famous celebrity homes in the world. Beyond the fame, the records, and the worldwide recognition, was there a deeper side to Michael Jackson's life that the world never truly understood? Keep watching to find out. The hidden side of Michael Jackson's life. Around the late 1980s, Michael Jackson became the center of intense media attention as rumors and speculation surrounded his personal life. Some claimed he was trying to change his skin color to appear white, while others spread stories that he was sleeping in an oxygen chamber to extend his lifespan. In 1993, Jackson addressed these rumors during a rare interview with Oprah Winfrey. He explained that his changing skin tone was caused by vitiligo, a condition that affects skin pigmentation. He also opened up about his difficult childhood and the mistreatment he experienced from his father, Joseph Jackson. As Jackson's career continued, he faced new challenges. His 1995 album, History, Past, Present, and Future, Book 1, received mixed reactions from critics and fans. The two-disc album featured a greatest hits collection on the first disc and new songs on the second. It included collaborations with artists such as Janet Jackson, the Notorious B.I.G., Shaquille O'Neal, and Slash. Unlike many of his previous albums, History was deeply personal. Many songs reflected Jackson's struggles with fame, his anger toward media criticism, and the accusations that had affected his reputation. The album produced major hits, including You Are Not Alone and Scream, his powerful duet with Janet Jackson. The futuristic Scream music video became one of the most expensive videos ever made, costing around $7 million, and later won a Grammy Award for its visual effects. However, They Don't Care About Us caused controversy because of criticism over some of its lyrics. In 2001, Jackson released Invincible, his final studio album before his death. Costing about $30 million to produce, it became one of the most expensive albums ever created. The album explored themes of loneliness, social issues, personal struggles, and Jackson's frustration with the media. Although it debuted at #1 on the Billboard charts, it received mixed reviews and did not reach the same level of cultural impact as his earlier works. The release of Invincible also came during Jackson's public dispute with Sony Music over control of his master recordings. The conflict grew when Jackson accused Sony chairman Tommy Mottola of exploiting black artists, creating further tension between the singer and the company. By the early 2000s, Jackson's personal life often attracted as much attention as his music. His unusual appearances, including wearing a surgical mask in public, became widely discussed. In 2002, he faced criticism after appearing confused at the MTV Video Music Awards. Later that year, he caused worldwide controversy after holding his infant son, Blanket, over a balcony in Berlin while showing him to fans. Jackson later explained that he meant no danger and was only responding to fans who wanted to see his child. However, Jackson's biggest controversies involved allegations of child sexual mistreatment. In 1993, 13-year-old Jordan Chandler accused him of sexual misconduct. Police searched Jackson's Neverland Ranch but reported finding no evidence supporting the claim. The following year, Jackson reached an out-of-court settlement with Chandler's family while continuing to deny any wrongdoing. The controversy returned in 2003 after the release of Living with Michael Jackson, a documentary by journalist Martin Basher. During the interview, Jackson discussed his relationships with children and admitted that children still stayed overnight at Neverland Ranch. His comments about sharing his bed with children created widespread criticism. Later in 2003, Jackson was arrested after allegations involving another 13-year-old boy. He faced multiple charges, including child molestation, conspiracy, false imprisonment, and extortion. The 2005 trial became a global media event with intense public attention surrounding the courtroom. More than 130 witnesses testified, but the jury questioned parts of the evidence and the accuser's statements. In June 2005, Jackson was found not guilty of all charges. In 2019, allegations against Jackson resurfaced after the release of Leaving Neverland, a documentary featuring two men who claimed Jackson had mistreated them during their childhood. The Michael Jackson estate denied the accusations, called the claims false, and filed a $100 million lawsuit against HBO. The legal dispute was later moved into arbitration in December 2020. Following his passing, one question remains: could the world ever forget Michael Jackson, or will his legendary legacy continue to inspire generations to come? Keep watching to find out. Michael Jackson's legacy. Michael Jackson, famously known as the King of Pop, was more than a musician. He was a global icon who transformed music, dance, and entertainment. Throughout his career, Jackson changed the way artists created music videos, turning them into powerful storytelling experiences filled with creativity, emotion, and unforgettable performances. His influence reached millions worldwide and extended beyond music into fashion, dance, culture, and humanitarian efforts. Jackson played a major role in changing the direction of popular entertainment, especially through MTV. His groundbreaking videos introduced new levels of creativity, choreography, and production, while helping break racial barriers in the music industry. Songs like Black or White, Heal the World, Earth Song, and They Don't Care About Us addressed important issues such as racial equality, environmental protection, and social injustice, using music to spread messages of unity and hope. During the 1980s, Jackson's fame reached an extraordinary level, making him one of the first true global superstars. His music connected with people across continents, inspiring audiences in Africa, India, Europe, Asia, and beyond. His unique dance style influenced performers worldwide, including artists in Bollywood and the K-pop industry. Throughout his career, Jackson was praised as one of the greatest entertainers in history. Motown founder Berry Gordy called him the greatest entertainer that ever lived, while Guinness World Records recognized him as the most successful entertainer of all time. Even after his death in 2009, Jackson's legacy continued to grow. Could these revelations about Michael Jackson be the end of his legacy? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you for staying with us as we explored the secret messages within Michael Jackson's private jet. But could there be even more to this discovery than we realize? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video on your screen to explore more stories. See you there.